So magandang gabi po ulit sa inyo lahat at nagbabalik na naman ako para mag-discuss ng panibagong topic. Ito ay ang creating stored procedures with parameters. So let's start. So the creating stored procedures with parameters module, it provides us with instruction and devices to develop our hands-on skills in the following topic. So may isa na naman tayong topic na i-cover this day. Ito yung working with stored procedures. So let's start. So exercise 1, working with stored procedure. Before pa tayo magsimula, ano yung stored procedure? A stored procedure is a subroutine available to applications that access a relational database management system. So para saan yun? So the stored procedure accepts the parameters and executes the transactional SQL statement in the procedure. So sabi din dito, a stored procedure is a group of transact SQL statements that are compiled into a single execution plan. So it is stored procedure in SQL Server are similar to procedures in any other programming language. Stored procedure in SQL Server can perform the following tasks. So ito yung isa. Number 1, it accepts input parameters. Number 2, it returns output parameters to the calling procedure. Number 3, it performs operations in the database using transact SQL statement. And number 4, it returns a status value to indicate success or failure of the calling procedure. So in this exercise daw, we will learn to work with stored procedure. So task 1 tayo. Create a stored procedure using transact SQL. So in this task, we will work with create procedure statement to create a transact SQL or common language runtime. So stored procedure in SQL Server, so you will use set no count on statement as the first statement in the body of the procedure by placing it just after the AS keyword. So this turn off messages that SQL Server sends back to the client after any select, insert, update, merge, and delete statement are executed. So step 1 tayo, tulad ng ating palaging ginagawa, na-memorize na natin. So ensure that we have powered on the required devices and connect to PLAB SQL 01. And step 2, from the PLAB SQL desktop, click start and click Microsoft SQL, then connect. From the server type tayo, type natin tong PLAB SQL 01 and then connect. So loading pa siya. Why? Okay. So yan. So step 3 tayo, the SQL Server Management Studio windows open. So in the Object Explorer, click to expand databases folder. Alright, and step 4, select natin yung AdventureWorks DW 2016 CTP3 and create tayo ng bagong query. So step 5, nag-appear na yung ating query panes. And step 6 tayo, to create a stored procedure using the create procedure statement, type the following query in the new query pane. So sabi dito, in the given query, we will create a simple transact SQL stored procedure named sample procedure 1 underscore PRC. So the procedure daw, when executed, will display all the records from the deemed department group table. So step 7 tayo, execute, and command completed successfully. So sabi dito, the result is displayed in the bottom pane that shows we stored procedure is successfully created. So step 8 tayo, create tayo ng panibagong query. So So in this given query daw, we will execute the transact SQL stored procedure. And step 9, run natin to. Yan. So the query ran successfully and the result set is displayed. So the result set is displayed in the result pane that shows all the records from the dim department group table. So ito yung lahat yung records na meron tayo sa dim department group table natin. And proceed tayo sa step 2. Ngayon naman, we will create a stored procedure with input parameters. So in this task, we will create a stored procedure that accepts input parameters. So we will then execute the stored procedure by passing the input parameter. So step 1, create tayo ng panibagong query. And type natin ito. So in this given query daw, we will create a stored procedure named sample procedure 2 PRC that accepts the department group key field value as the input parameter. So the stored procedure when executed will display only those records from the dim department group table that matches the specified department group key field. So step 2, i-run natin ito. And command completed successfully, meaning it shows the stored procedure is successfully created. And step 3, create tayo ng panibagong query. And copyahin natin ito. So in this given query na kinopy-paste natin, we will execute the stored procedure. So the input parameter for the procedure is given as 1. So the procedure will display all those records from the dim department group table where the department group key field values are 1. Step 4, run natin to. Ayan, may lumabas na 1. So the query runs successfully in the result set. It is displayed. Okay, so task 3 tayo. Ngayon naman, we will create a stored procedure using wildcard parameters naman. So step 1, create tayo ng panibagong query. So in this given query down, we will create a stored procedure named sample underscore customer details. So the procedure will query the dim customer table and display the records based on the wildcard parameters used in the procedure. So the records having the first name and last name starting with letter A are displayed. So run natin ito. So command completed successfully, meaning we stored procedure is successfully created. So step 3, create tayo ng panibagong query. And type natin ito. So dito sa type natin, we will execute the stored procedure named sample customer details. So step 4, run natin ito. Ayan. So lahat ng pangalan na nagsisimula sa letter A, ito. So na-stored na siya dito. So step saan tayo? So sa task 4 naman tayo. So dito sa task 4, we will create a stored procedure with output parameters. Okay? So step 1 tayo, create tayo ng panibago nating query. So type natin ito. So in this given query, we will create a stored procedure named sample procedure 3 PRC that has two parameters such as department name and the total count of employees. So the employees count parameter is an output parameter and is specified with keyword out. So the department name daw is an input parameter. So input that will be passed during execution. So based on the department name passed, the select query in the procedure will calculate the total count of employees working in that particular department. So run natin ito as per step 2. So command completed successfully, meaning we stored the procedure, successful natin na-stored yung procedure. And step 3, create tayo ng panibagong query. So dito sa kinopy natin, we will execute daw the stored procedure by passing the department name as production naman. So the total count of employees working with the production department from dim employee table is calculated and displayed on procedure execution. So step 4, run natin ito. And yan. So count 179. So meaning it displayed in the bottom pane that shows the total count of employees working in the production department. So meron tayong 179 employee under the production department. So task 5, we will create a stored procedure with table valued parameter. So you can use table valued parameters in stored procedure to send single or multiple rows of data in the database. So the table valued parameters are read-only in Transact SQL. So in order to use table valued parameters in stored procedures, you need to first create a table type and then define the stored procedure. So you can declare table valued parameters in the stored procedure based on the created table type. So in this task naman, we will create a stored procedure with table valued parameter and execute it. So step 1, create tayo ng panibago nating query. So in this given query, we will first create a table type name department group. It consists now of 2 fields. So the query then creates a stored procedure named sample procedure for the underscore PRC, where the at p underscore insert department variable based on department group table is passed as the table valued parameter. So run natin ito. And command completed successfully. So the result is displayed in the bottom pane natin that shows stored procedure is successfully created. And step 3 tayo, create tayo ng panibago nating query. So in this given query, we will declare a variable that references the table type department group. So the data is added to the table variable and at insert department. So the table variable data is then passed to the stored procedure and the procedure naman is executed. So the procedure inserts the values a single row into the department group. So run natin ito. Step 4. Yan, so 1 rows affected. So the query ran successfully in the result set is displayed. So task 6 tayo. Ngayon naman, we will create a stored procedure with return code. So you can use the return statement in a stored procedure to unconditionally terminate the execution of the procedure. So if you use the return statement in a stored procedure, it cannot return a null value. So if you include naman Transact SQL statement after the return statement in a stored procedure, the database engine naman will not execute those statements. So stored procedures can return an integer value that is called the return code. So anong return code? The return code determines the successful or unsuccessful execution status of the procedure. So we can specify the return code for a stored procedure with the help of return statement. So the return code must be stored in variable. So successfully stored procedure execution will give a return code of 0. Tanda natin 0. So unsuccessful stored procedure execution will result in a non-zero value return code. So we will use the following syntax to return the status of the stored procedure. So step 1, create tayo ng panibago nating query. So in this given query down, we will create a stored procedure named sample procedure 6 underscore PRC that has department group key value as the parameter. So the select query in the procedure will display all the records from the department group table based on the department group key value naman. So that will be passed during procedure execution. So the procedure will return an integer value 2 based on the execution status. So run natin. So command completed successfully. So meaning it displayed the bottom pane that shows the stored procedure is successfully nating na-create. So step 3, createan ng panibago nating query. So dito in this given query, a variable at return value is declared that will hold the return code of the procedure. So the procedure is executed with the parameter value 1. So if the parameter pass is a valid department group key in the department group table. So then the procedure is successfully executed with return code of 2. So the print statement display the text based on the value of the return table. So step 4, execute natin. And yan. So to view the execution messages, click message tab from the result pane. So 1 rows affected and executed successfully. So that's it. Na-covered na natin yung topic natin, which is yung working with stored procedure. Thank you for listening and God bless.